Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another episode of the Golden Age. This is our series of Warhammer Fantasy Battle Reports, and this is Battle Report number 59. It is a 2,000 point battle that's fought between Screamo the Emo as well as myself. My friend Screamo the Emo is bringing House von Koss of the Vampire Counts, and I am playing with the Legion of the Hellmouth, our studio's brand new 2,000 point Ogre Kingdoms army. So this is the third battle report that I am playing with this army, and we're playing at 2,000 points once again, and I'm really looking forward to this one as well. I'm pretty much alternating between our studio's different armies, fighting them all one by one with my Ogre Kingdoms army, so that way I get a good idea of how to use them. Still kind of like in the learning phase of using this Ogre Kingdoms army, so if any of you guys are watching this battle report and you want to put in some input on how to successfully play with these ogres with my army, please feel free to put it down in the comments below, because that's only going to help me get better. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what we're bringing for this battle report, go and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So with that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought, or why we died. No. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Power pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then the hell with you.
The scenario for this one is Battle Line. It is your most traditional style of Warhammer Fantasy Battle Reports that there is. We're having standard deployment rules with 12-inch deployment areas on either side. We're playing on a 4x6 table. Standard victory conditions applies as always. Units cost the same amount of victory points as you would for destroying them or catching them flee off the battlefield. 100 extra points for generals as well as for battle standards. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's go and talk about the battle plan for this one. And here is an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. So as you can see here, I'm deployed on the near side of the table. My friend Screamo the Emo is deployed on the far side of the table. And pretty much what my idea is to keep on playing the same tactic I've been doing with my Ogre Kingdoms army since the beginning of these battle reports using this army. And that is to charge in as quickly as possible, cause as much destruction, and just fight it out. Now I'm starting to realize now that Ogre Kingdoms are a little bit different than most armies I play with. Now they do have higher strength and toughness characteristics, and they also have a lot of attacks as well as wounds, but when it comes to their weapon skill, ballistic skill, as well as their leadership, they're pretty low on that. So I gotta kind of mitigate that and try to, pick my battles kind of wisely, because while my army is kit out to kill, they're all filler, no killer. They don't really have really good stats to do really well in close combat. You just kind of have to power through, for lack of a better word. I am playing against Vampire Counts, so that is kind of easier for this army, because Vampire Counts has to march towards me to engage me in close combat, so that part's kind of nice. My plan is to try to do a counter charge like I've been doing up to this point. I'm going to move up my forces just a little bit, so that way I can close a distance between my battle line as well as my enemy's main line of advance, and then I can counter charge against and destroy it that way. The only real units I'm really afraid of so far in my opponent's army list are those Crypt Horrors there on the left hand side, same thing with the Terrorgeist, and same thing with his Crypt Ghouls right in the center of the battlefield. So what my plan is, I'm going to try to take out his flanking units first, because they might cause me the most problems, destroy those guys, then close in on the center in a full envelopment, and hopefully destroy them that way. And that's pretty much the battle plan I'm kind of going with on this one. So with the battle plan over with, let's go and talk about deployment real quick for my Ogre Kingdoms. This is my army, the Legion of the Hellmouth. On the left-hand side, that is a unit of 6 Ogre Bulls with battle standard, the Standard Bearer, as well as a musician. Those guys are called the Red Rovers. They're equipped with light armor, iron fists, as well as hand weapons. In the center, I have my huge column formation of Iron Guts, that's Stinkgum's Legion. That consists of 9 Iron Guts with full command on that one. They're all carrying great weapons as well as heavy armor. And then up at the front rank of that, I have my 3 characters. Left-hand side, that is Burps O' Blood, the Skinner of the Steppes. That is my Slaughter Master. He's level 4 Lore of the Great Maw. He's also got the armor of Silver Steel as well as the Hell Heart, which could help out in this one because I'm going against a heavy magic army in this one. In the center, that is my general. That is my Tyrant, Taijin Khan, the Right Fist of Hell. He's a tyrant who's got Fencer's Blades, Glittering Scales, as well as the Greedy Fist, so he has a plus up to his strength. He's got paired weapons at level weapon skill 10. He's got Glittering Scales and -1 hit against, so people got to roll 6s to hit against him. And then right next on the right hand side, that is Korgul, the Giant Breaker. That is my Bruiser. He's got the Giant Breaker big name as well as the Rune Maw. He's also got a Battle Standard Bearer upgrade as well, great weapon as well as heavy armor. And that makes up my deployment here on the left hand side. In the center of my army, I have my 4 lead belchers. Those are the powder gangers. They're just 4 normal lead belchers with lead belcher guns. And their plan is to move across the battlefield as quick as they can and try to will down some undead with some long-range fire from those lead belcher guns of theirs. And on the far right-hand side, those are my Beast Claw Raiders. Those are 3 Ogre Mornfang Cavalry. No command upgrades whatsoever. They're just 3 Raider guys. They're equipped with heavy armor, iron fists, as well as hand weapons, and they're mounted on Mornfangs. And up to this point, they've always been charged against in most cases. I have not been able to charge these guys, but my plan on this one is hopefully I can charge these guys for it because they get D3 impact hits apiece because of their Mornfangs. And that pretty much makes up my deployment on this one. Meanwhile, across the battlefield are the vampire counts. On the left-hand side, that is Volkar, the Beast of Blutwald. He is a Terrorgeist, and right next to him are the Ravenous. Those are 6 Crypt Horrors, no upgrades in that unit as well. So pretty monster-heavy left-hand flank for my opponent. And like I said before, these are 2 of the units I'm really afraid of, especially that Terrorgeist's Death Streak ability, because I have pretty low leadership for my army. And in the center of the battlefield is the rest of his army. Right there on the left-hand side, that is the Balefire Carnival. That is a huge unit of 49 Crypt Ghouls with a Crypt Gas in that unit as well. They're putting a 10 by 5 deep horde formation. Leading them is Marduk von Koss, the Baron of Drakenfels. He's a Strigoi Ghoul King. He's a level 1 wizard, lore of vampires. He's carrying Scab-Scrath, the Dragonbane Gem. He's got the vampire abilities, the Aura of Dark Majesty, as well as Curse of the Revenant. And the reason why he's kitted out that way is because he wants to maximize the Death ability he gets from the Scab-Scrath magical weapon. On the right hand side, that is his unit of zombies. Those are the 20 zombies called the Walking Dead of San Reme. Leading that is Sinister Jeffrey. He's a Master Necromancer with the Lore of Undeath on him. He's got no magic items. And right next to him is Creepy Timothy, who is a Necromancer who's level 2 with the Lore of Vampires, and he has a Dispel Scroll. And then finally back there we have the Calliope of Chaos. That is a Mortis engine with the Blasphemous Tome. And that makes up my opponent's deployment on the center. So with the deployment we're with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and Screamo the Emo and I roll off for initiative to see who will go first. Alright, so that takes directly to the top of turn number 1 for the Vampire Counts. My buddy Screamo the Emo managed to get the initiative on this one, and the first thing he does is he marches as quickly as he possibly can to close a distance between both of our armies. Like I said, he's playing Vampire Counts, so he really needs to close a distance in order to engage me in close combat. And I need to engage him as quick as I can too, because if I don't, he'll just spam his buffing abilities from his lore of Vampires, as well as summon up new units from his Undeath lore. So I gotta really worry about that as well. So starting on the left-hand side, he March Flies Volkar the Beast of Blutwald overway to the left-hand side using the buildings there on the left-hand side as cover. And I gotta worry about that guy because worst case scenario, bad case scenario is that he actually flanks me on the left with Volkar, or even worst case scenario, he flies completely behind me and then engages me in a pincer attack. So I really gotta worry about that. At the same time, he also marches the Ravenous right between the tower there at the top of the screen as well as the barn, getting him in position so that way he doesn't get flanked. He also marches at the Walking Dead of San Reme as well as the Balefire Carnival moving forward, and he has a Calliope of Chaos following behind with support as well. And I forgot to mention with the Dark Aura, all of his units there have +1 to their regeneration abilities, so a lot of those units have regen 6, while the Ravenous have regen 4. So that's another thing I gotta worry about as well. And in the magic phase, what he ended up doing was casting the large boosted version of Van Hel's Dance Macabre, which gives every unit within 12 inches of his Necromancers +1 to hit against. The Calliope of Chaos, as well as the Balefire Carnival, as well as the Walking Dead of San Reme all benefit from that. Not to mention, they also move forward up to 8 inches forward as well, which he also does as well. Moves all those units, as well as the Calliope of Chaos, forward 8 inches, that way he can close the distance even further. Now, we skip the shooting phase because he's not in range with any of his shooting abilities at this point, and since nobody's engaged in close combat, we go directly to bottom turn number 1 for the Ogre Kingdoms. So this is the battle turn number 1 for the Ogre Kingdoms. This is after the move phase, and as you can see in this photo, I decided to charge forward. It's like I said before, I gotta take the offense on this one. That's what Ogres do best. I charged forward first with the Stinkums Legion, and I rolled an 11 on my charges. So because of that, my front rank fighters have D3 extra impact hits when they slam against the Ravenous, which is gonna be very, very important for me to help to hopefully destroy that unit just right off the bat. With the combined impact hits as well as the attacks coming forward, that can really help out, and especially since I have 3 ranks in this unit, so I get the +3 my strength on my impact hits, and that's really going to help me out to destroy the Ravenous, because those guys are pretty terrifying. The second unit I charge forward with, of course, is my Mornfang Cavalry, and the Beast Claw Raiders go tearing across the battlefield directly into the Walking Dead of San Reme, and that's because I'm hoping that enough of my attacks will be able to destroy that unit outright. My opponent is playing Vampire counts, so he doesn't have to worry about taking break tests per se, but he does have to worry about instability rules. So if I get a high enough casualty rate, I could vaporize his units just from the difference in combat resolution, which means that he loses that additional many models as an effect of that. So that's pretty much what I do there. Now for the rest of my army, I march up the left-hand side with my Red Rovers. I put them in a position in such a way that they can protect the left-hand flank of my Iron Guts, so that way they don't get hit. If my opponent decides to send in Volkard, the Beast of Blutwald, into the left-hand side of Stinkums Legion, I can countercharge him in the flank with the Red Rovers, or hopefully if he goes around behind, I can do a swift reform with my Red Rovers and hopefully intercept them that way. And then lastly, my Powder Gangers, they move forward just 6 inches, that way they can open fire with their lead belcher guns and hopefully whittle down that unit of Crypt Horrors down just a little bit and making the Bellflower Carnival just a little bit weaker to go against. Here's a close-up of Stinkums Legion making that long-distance 11-inch charge directly into the Ravenous. I'm really looking forward to that combat because I want to see what kind of damage I can do with those impact hits from Ogre Charge. And here's a close-up of the Beast Claw Raiders charging directly into the Walking Dead of San Reme. And I'm looking forward to that one as well because they get D3 impact hits apiece for being Mornfang, and hopefully they can chew up that unit of zombies and cause all kinds of problems that way as well. So with the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase, but my opponent pretty much shuts down my magic phase because he's very magic powerful in this one, so I have no abilities on that one. So because of that, we skip magic phase and we go directly to the shooting phase. And in the shooting phase, I managed to kill 6 Crypt Ghouls, so that part was kind of nice as well. Opened fire to all 4 of my lead belcher guns. Now, it wasn't as effective as I was hoping it was going to be, but the reason why is because these Crypt Ghouls are toughness 4, so I have to roll 4 up in order to hit them. Plus, I got to roll 4 up in order to hit them with my lead belcher guns to begin with. So at this time, though, it's also 6 more Crypt Ghouls I have to worry about. The only downside to this, of course, is that my opponent can bring back his casualties, so I do have to worry about that. So any spells he has in the next phase to bring back characters using his vampire lore abilities, I'm going to have to try to shut that down in the next magic phase. So with the shooting phase over with, we go directly to the combat phase. And over on the right-hand side, my Beast Claw Raiders destroy that unit of zombies like it's nobody's business. After it was all said and done, I think I killed pretty much all of his zombies with impact hits, as well as the attacks from the Mornfang, as well as from my Ogres who were riding them as well. I kill his Master Necromancer, Sinister Jeffrey at the same time. I also kill, I think, 19 zombies. The only guy who's left alive is Creepy Timothy. Now, because he didn't cause any wounds back to me. Now, because Creepy Timothy is all by himself, and since I won by an overwhelming landslide with the stability rules from Undead, he just vaporizes because he too also dies from all the lack of combat res that he has. Now, because I destroyed that unit, I do decide to overrun as well, and it's because I go directly into the Calliope of Chaos, his Mortis engine, so I'll be engaging that in close combat as well for the next turn, so that part's kind of nice. The only part that's not good about it is I can't charge. I didn't charge to get into combat, so because of that, I don't get impact hits, but Mornfang Cavalry have taught me they're pretty good in close combat, so hopefully they'll be enough to destroy the Calliope of Chaos real quick. And over here on the right-hand side, I just chew up the Ravenous something fierce. I kill 2 of them right off the bat. I also put 2 more floating wounds on the last one as well, and then they only put 1 wound back on me as well. So with my charge, my Battle Standard Bearer, my Standard Bearer, my 3 ranks, and the amount of casualties I cause, I just vaporized this unit with combat res because I only got back with 1, and they don't have any ranks on this one, so that really helped out. So the difference in combat result was enough to kill the rest of the Crypt Horrors. So because of that, they die. And because I won combat, I do a quick combat reform real quick, and I go with a formation of 4 wide and 3 deep, and they're staring right down the left-hand flank of the Bellflower Carnival. Now, my hopes here is to hopefully I can destroy Hopefully I can destroy the Calliope of Chaos on the right hand side, destroying that Mortis engine. If I can do that, then my Mournfang Cavalry as well as my Iron Guts can then charge into the flanks of the Balefire Carnival, catch them in a pincer attack. That's pretty much what I'm kind of going with my goal. The only thing I got to worry about though is that my Lead Belchers are right there in the middle, and hopefully they can survive a round of combat against the Balefire Carnival, so that way I can hold them into place, so that way I can flank them both sides and then catch it in a pincer attack. So that's pretty much what I'm kind of going with on this plan. So with combat over, we go directly to the top in turn number 2 for the vampire accounts, and this photo is taken after the movement phase, and at this point my friend Scream of the Emo just commits his forces. He charges in the Balefire Carnival, charging directly into my Powder Gangers, so because of my 4 low Belchers, we'll need to fight against that huge horde of Crypt Ghouls. Hopefully they can survive around, so that way I can flank them and then hit him in the side with my Iron Guts. That's pretty much what I'm kind of going with on this one. At the same time, he also charges in Volkar the Beast of Bluefall directly into the Red Rovers, and I'm also kind of excited to see how that combat goes, because I want to see if my troops can survive against fighting against a monster, because you know I got monsters infantry, so they should do pretty well. And that pretty much makes the move phase for Scream of the Emo. Here's a close-up of the Beast of Volkar, the Beast of Bluefall, charging directly into the Red Rovers, and so now my units are engaged in close combat with that Terrorgeist. They managed to pass their terror check really quick, so that part was kind of nice. Here's a close-up of the center of the battlefield with the Balefire Carnival charging directly into my Powder Gangers. We'll see if those guys can last around a combat against these Crypt Ghouls, and hopefully I can keep them there so that way I can flank them. And finally, here's a close-up of the Calliope of Chaos as well as the Beastclaw Raiders engaging close combat on the top of the battlefield. So with the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. My opponent had a really low magic phase. I pretty much shut down most of his spells. The only thing he had left was his level 1 wizard, who was his general, so you can only get off Invocation to Heck, and since I have a level 4 Slaughtermaster left, I was able to control the magic phase because he lost all of his high level casters when I destroyed that unit of zombies. So that pretty much makes up the magic phase. So the magic phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. And in the shooting phase, that was pretty bad. The Volkar, the Beast of Bluefall, opens up this death streak directly into the Red Rovers, and I lose 2 of them from the amount of wounds he caused. I think in the end he got like a score of 13 opposed to my leadership of 7, as what I ended up thinking happened. So because I lost 6 wounds, each of my ogres carrying 3 of them, I can't take any armor saves of any kind, so because of that they all get killed to a man. So that part was horrible. And my opponent does exactly the same thing to my Powder Gangers when he opens up with Scab's Death Streak ability for Marduk von Koss. He's got 1 additional wound added to him because he's got the Curse and Revenant, so he's packing 4 wounds. Plus he has the Aura of Dark Majesty, which makes me lose a point of leadership for my Powder Gangers as well, so that means he gets 2 more additional points. I think it ended up being a different, yeah, it had to be a difference of 6 would end up being in the end, so because of that he popped 2 of my Powder Gangers, and now my Lead Belchers are at half strength, so I don't think they're going to survive combat in the next round. And the Banshees from the Calliope of Chaos do their Ghostly Howl ability off onto my Mournfang Cavalry, and they all cause 3 wounds onto one of my Mournfang Cavalry, so that part was pretty bad as well. I forgot how deadly shooting can be with this Undead army because of their Death Shriek as well as Banshee abilities that they have for the army. So with the shooting phase over with, they go directly to the combat phase. In the combat phase, Volkar, the Beast of Bluefall, brought it to me. He killed one of my ogres outright and wasn't able to cause any more damage. Now, I try to counterattack, of course, but unfortunately for me, though, I don't cause any wounds whatsoever onto Volkar. He's got a really high toughness. I have a really, I have really good strength. I have strength 4, but he's toughness, I think, 6 is what he ends up being. Let me double check that. Yeah, no, actually, he's toughness, let me look at my notes. Oh, so yeah, toughness 6. So because I don't cause any wounds onto him at all. So with his charge, plus the 3 wounds that he caused to me by killing one of my ogres, he actually wins by 4. I only have a standard bear in this unit, so he drops down to 3. So I lose this combat result. I do have to take a break test, which means I'm breaking on a 4 on this one. Needless to say, I failed my break test and I ran. And when I rolled my dice to see how far I got back 4 inches all I went. Volkar chased me down. He ran 11 inches, chopped down my Rovers like they're nobody's business. The only, plus side to this is that Volkar flies off the table edge by doing that, by attacking them, so he won't be able to come back until the next turn for him to do anything as well. So that's the only silver lining in that whole combat on the left-hand flank. Meanwhile, combat between my Beastclaw Raiders as well as the Calliope of Chaos actually went pretty well. He actually caused 2 additional wounds onto one of my Beastclaw Raiders, so 1 more wound and one of them dies in close combat. But in the end, by the time it was all said and done with combat res and everything else, I managed to put 4 wounds on the Calliope of Chaos, which means he only has 1 more wound left before he explodes. So hopefully it won't be that bad because I have pretty high toughness on this one. Hopefully he'll do more damage himself than he will to me, but you never know when it comes to vampire counts. And as you can probably imagine, my last two powder gangers just got destroyed by those crypt horrors. I believe Marduk von Koss killed one of them outright by himself, and the rest, of course, with the attacks of the rest of the crypt ghouls, and they just destroyed the powder gangers like it's nobody's business. Because he won combat, he decided to do a quick reform real quick, and he faced over to the right-hand side to face head-on with my Stenkum's Legion. So those two units will be facing off here in the next turn. So with the combat phase over with, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 2 for the Ogre Kingdoms. So that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 2 for the Ogre Kingdoms, and this photo is taken after the move phase, and I decided to charge forward. I charged forward with Stenkum's Legion, charging directly into the mob of crypt ghouls that are right across from them. Now, when I rolled for my charge result, I rolled a 12. I rolled boxcar, so that's even better because now all my front rank guys cause D3 impacts, which is going to be really awesome. Plus, I got 2 ranks beyond that, giving a 2-up strength, so I'm really looking forward to see exactly what happens from that attack. Just charging forward with a huge mountain of muscle and fat, charging directly into those crypt horrors. And here's a close-up of the battlefield right here in the center of the battlefield. You can see a close-up of my Stenkum's Legion charging directly into the Balefire Carnival, as well as my Beastclaw Raiders still engaging the Calliope of Chaos. So with the movement phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. And during the magic phase, I got really lucky. I got 2 spells off. I first got off, not Toothcracker, Bone Snapper. I forget which one it is. It's the one that gives you +1 strength to your unit. So because I got that spell off, so because that all my ogres now are a +1 strength, that's called, not Bone Crusher, Bull Gorger. There we go. That's the name of the spell. So all my Iron Guts as well as my characters have +1 strength. At the same time, I also cast Troll Guts on that unit as well, giving them a 5-up regen because I'm going to need that to go up against these crypt ghouls here in a little bit. And so I had a pretty successful magic phase with that. So with magic phase over with, we skip shooting phase because all the shooting elements of my army are dead, and we go directly to the combat phase. Starting on the right hand side of the combat phase, my Beastclaw Raiders finished off the Calliope of Chaos, which caused it to explode. I believe it put 2 wounds onto my Mornfang Cav. I think it killed 3 more of the Crypt Ghouls, is what it ended up doing, and then did nothing to my Stenkum's Legion because I saved it with regen saves. So that part was kind of nice. It really mitigated the damage from that. Now, because I destroyed the Calliope of Chaos, of course, I do a combat reform with my Mornfang Cav, so that way they're looking right down the barrel to attack the rear of the Balefire Carnival. And close combat between the Balefire Carnival and Stenkum's Legion. It was an absolute bloodbath for me, actually, destroying my opponent so much. I basically killed 21 crypt ghouls when it was all said and done with the close combat attacks from the rest of my characters, which was my Butcher, my Bruiser, as well as the rest of my Iron Guts. They managed to cause all that damage, and that includes the impact hits I got off when I charged against them, so that part was pretty epic. Now, the fight between my general took place between my general as well as my opponent's general. I issued a challenge with Taijin Khan. Marduk von Koss, of course, accepted the challenge. I managed to put 2 wounds on Marduk von Koss, so that part was really cool. He wasn't able to I think he only put 1 wound on my general, which was actually kind of, he got lucky on that one because he basically was just hitting on 6s what he had to do in order to get to me. So that part was kind of nice for me for the most part. So because I did kind of finish him off that way as well. Needless to say, because of combat res though, he takes a lot of losses from combat resolution. By the time combat resolution got over with, he had 5 more crypt ghouls as well as his general, and that's all he had left because the rest of them just kind of crumbled away from the instability rules that unit had to suffer against. So with the combat phase over with, we go directly. I also lost 2 Iron Guts. I forgot to mention that. Lost 2 of my Iron Guts in the process of the combat. So with the combat phase over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for the vampire counts. And the only movement that took place in turn number 3 was that Vokar, the Beast of Blue Vault, came back to the table edge, and I got to worry about that Terrorgeist because my right-hand flank of my Stenkum's Legion is now open for the Terrorgeist to charge inward, so I do have to worry about that. But at the same time, though, my opponent has really nothing else left on the battlefield, so I'm not too worried about it. Now, we skipped the magic phase, of course, because I shut down the magic phase because my opponent only has a level 1 wizard and I have a level 4 wizard. So because of that, we go directly to the shooting phase. And in the shooting phase, he does try to use his Death Streak ability off of my general. Unfortunately for him, though, his shooting phase failed. I have a pretty high leadership for my general, so that part really helped out. Plus, the fact that he lost 2 wounds also really helped for that Death Streak ability. So not much really happened there. And the combat phase, Marduk von Koss as well as Taijin Khan, the Right Fist of Hell, go for another round of combat, and I managed to kill Marduk von Koss, just absolutely destroying that guy. I think by the time it was all said and done, I caused 3 additional wounds on that guy. Now, he only carries 4, so he just flies off the table because I smashed him with my Iron Fist, with my Greedy Fist. He wasn't able to cause any wounds to me, so that part was kind of nice, which means that my opponent now will have to take crumble checks for all of his units because his general's dead. But instead of going any further, my opponent decides to call a game at this point because he realizes he's not going to win, and that nets another victory for the Ogre Kingdoms. So as you can see in the battlefield, pretty much all the undead armies is pretty much dead except for Vokar, the Beast of Blue Vault, as well as the remnants of the Balefire Carnival, and that nets another victory for the Legion of the Hellmouth. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go directly to the after action report because this battle report is now officially over.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king. Hail to the king, baby.
Alright, now it's time for the after action report. This is the part of the battle report we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is the after action report for the Golden Age Warhammer Fantasy battle report number 59, and it being a victory for yours truly. For my losses, I lost the Red Rovers as well as the Powder Gangers. Scream of the Emo lost House von Koss, the Baron of Drakenfels. Sinister Jeffrey, his Master Necromancer. Creepy Timothy, his level 2 Necromancer. The Walking Dead of San Reme, the Ravenous, as well as the Calliope of Chaos. In the end, the reason why I think I won this battle report and why I won it so quickly is because Scream of the Emo's choice in magic really helped me out. He put the lore of Undeath upon his Master Necromancer. Now, while that lore is good for summoning up units, what happened was that because he put the Blasphemous Tome on his Mortis engine, he didn't receive the 2-up bonus that he gets because the Blasphemous Tome only works for vampire lore of vampires. So because of that, it didn't work out the way he thought it was going to work out for the most part. So because of that, he pretty much realized that he won't be able to use that lore, not with the bonuses that he's hoping to use it with his Calliope of Chaos. So because of that, he has since replaced that lore with his Natural Necromancer for future battles, so that might be a little bit different the next time around. And the reason why I say that is because controlling the magic phase for me was really helpful in this battle report because it prevented Scream of the Emo from recovering his casualties that he took because he couldn't get off the Invocation of the Hex spell. So because of that, he couldn't recover his losses, which is extremely important for vampire accounts to bring back the dead, and I kept on preventing him from doing that. Also, combat between the Mournfang Cavalry against the zombies was also really awe-inspiring. I was surprised to see how much damage those guys can do against another unit when they charge against them. So I'm in love with the capabilities of my Beast Claw Raiders. I just gotta make sure I'm the one who charges into combat, not the other way around. Not to mention Ogre Charge with the D3 impact hits that you get when you roll 10 or higher for your charges really helped out in this combat phase, especially against the Crypt Horrors as well as the Crypt Ghouls. It allowed me to really cut down those units, and that way the rest of my attacks could really smash into pieces, and that really helped me really win this one as well. Also, I love the current kit on my general in terms of magic items. This allows him to survive combat very easily and put the hurting on his opponents at the same time. So whether he's fighting normal troops or in challenges, it's really helpful for him, and I'm really liking the choice they made on that guy. This was an extremely fun game against an awesome opponent, and as always, I am looking forward to the rematch. So that's going to do it for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest, greatest, and hobby news relating to this channel. That's going to do it for this one, you guys. We will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.